Usually the COD community is pretty unified on what guns are good and what guns are bad in each game. Obviously, the better guns are going to be the more popular ones, right? But sometimes a community decides to make a gun popular despite that gun not actually being very good compared to other weapons in the game. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Jimmy or Chaos. Today, we're going to be looking at the 20 guns that COD players liked even though they sucked. So you let me know which of these sucky guns you actually liked using. Drop a like on the video. I read every single comment on every video, guys. I truly appreciate all the interaction, and I had a funny one the other day. Somebody said, hey, Jimmy's cloned his voice. He's AI. He's not even doing these, which is crazy. I haven't. It's me, but it was just kind of a weird comment. That's the day and age we're in. Anyway, drop a like, guys. At number 20, the Kilo in Modern Warfare 2019. Now, this gun was extremely popular in that community because there really wasn't a lot of reason behind it other than the simple fact people were trying to grind up for Warzone. The Kilo was a perfectly average assault rifle, had perfectly average stats. Yes, it was easy to control, had some cheesy attachments, but the time to kill wasn't anything special in any situation, and yet it was one of the most popular guns in multiplayer, partially because it was a monster in Warzone, so people were always trying to level it up. But also partially because people loved how smooth it handled. It really didn't matter that time to kill that wasn't that impressive because the gun, it felt silky smooth to use. And that was enough of a reason for a lot of people. It wasn't ever going to kill as quickly as the M4 or the AS Val, but it was going to stay on target with zero effort, so people spammed it. At number 19, the Mini Uzi in COD 4. Now, this thing had a fan club. Pretty big fan club, which I always thought was weird because back in the day, we were all pretty much in agreement that this gun sucked. We were. The COD 4 Uzi had a high fire rate, had some really cool firing sounds, but it also had a pitifully low damage profile that made it one of the slowest killing guns in the class. It wasn't the worst in its class, but for a number of people who seem to be nostalgic for this gun, I have to ask, why? I'm not saying it wasn't fun to use, I just don't see why anybody would use this over the MP5, the AK-74U, even the P90. It's the perfect definition of a gun that people seem to really like, but it wasn't any good. At number 18, the UMP-45, hang on, in Modern Warfare 3, 2011. Now, we all know the UMP is one of the most iconic SMGs in the entire franchise because of the debut in the original Modern Warfare 2. It was pretty early unlock in the sequel, though, which made it relatively popular in the multiplayer, but it wasn't actually that good. Not this time around. I think this is one of those cases where a gun is really cool and has such a strong legacy, so people used it out of habit. But the Modern Warfare 3 version, it wasn't that strong. It was vastly outclassed by other SMGs in the game. So even though a lot of people were using it, I really never saw the appeal outside of just wanting to feel like you were still playing Modern Warfare 2. You were just channeling. Why would you use this over the MP7? Why would you use it over the PP90? You wouldn't. At number 17, I hurt every time I have to mention this gun. The Chum CQB in Black Ops 2. I still, to this day, get people running to my comment sections and telling me that it was the best SMG in Black Ops 2. Yeah, we all know this thing was really, really bad, right? There was no reason to use it over the MSMC, the Scorpion Evo, the Peacekeeper, basically anything else in the SMG category. It's pretty passionate following, though. I respect that. I don't know why, but I respect it. I mean, I guess some people just like using the underdog weapon. That's what this gun was, the underdog. And it was the underdog for a reason. You know the reason? It sucked. At number 16. The Akimbo Rangers in Modern Warfare 2 2009. Now, the Ranger shotgun was awesome. In fact, you could use two of them at the same time. That's double awesome. The Akimbo Rangers became one of the most iconic parts of the game, but let me be honest here. I don't really understand why. I'm not saying they were bad, because they weren't, but they weren't the best shotguns in the game. I mean, this is the same game that had the Spaz 12, the AA-12, the Model 1887s. Yes, the Akimbo Rangers were cool, but they were totally outclassed by these other shotguns, so I really don't know why so many people insisted that they were worth using over the others. At number 15, the MP5K in the original Black Ops. Everybody seems to remember the MP5K fondly from this game, and even though I agree that it had an awesome firing sound and I guess you could say some sweet vibes, I don't understand why anybody thought this was any good compared to the AK-74U. The MP5K and the AK-74U actually had the exact same fire rate. They had the exact same shots to kill. Exact same magazine size. But the difference? Well, it was the fact that the MP5K kicked way more to the side than the AK, which had entirely vertical recoil and could be turned into a laser beam with a grip attachment. A lot of people swear that the MP was underrated in the game, but I'm here to tell you it wasn't. It was literally just a worse version of the AK-74U, so why would you use it? Why would you not just pull out the AK? At number 14, the Shiva in Black Ops 3. Now, there were a lot of people who absolutely insisted the Shiva was some kind of top-tier rifle, but if you actually used it, you would have to have known that people were exaggerating. Yes, the semi-auto rifle could get one-shot kills to the head if you were using high caliber, but when you compare this gun to other ARs in Black Ops 3, I don't know why you'd want to deal with that horrible fire rate cap or even that slow handling. Why not just take the KN-44? Why not just take the Man of War, the ICR, the M8? I could go on and on. Why would you want to deal with this thing's horrible fire rate just because you could get a one-shot kill? I mean, I really don't know why people saw this as such a high-tier weapon. Other rifles were way easier to use and had extremely quick TTKs. This just wasn't it. At number 13, the Razerback in Black Ops 3. Now, this gun fell victim to one of the harshest nerfs in COD history. During the beta, it was the best gun in the entire game. But when the full version of Black Ops 3 came out, it was arguably the worst SMG of the bunch. Yes, felt great to use, super smooth, had a lot of potential, but that damage was too low to keep up with the other SMGs, especially since that fire rate was also on the low side for the game. Lots of people in the BO3 community loved the Razerback. I liked it, mainly because of how smooth it felt. But you have to ask yourself, does smoothness matter if stats aren't there? You tell me. It was fun to use, it just wasn't very good. I think a lot of people kept using it just because of its legacy from the beta. At number 12. The SMR in Black Ops 2. Every time I talk about this gun, there is a legion of people in the comments who insist this was their go-to weapon in Black Ops 2, but at the end of the day, we all know it sucked. The SMR wasn't bad on its own, but when you compared it to every other assault rifle in the game, especially the FAL, it was outclassed. There was absolutely zero reason to use this thing because it was literally worse than the FAL in every possible way, and yet a ton of people, they insist that it was amazing. I'll never understand it. At number 11. The XMG in Advanced Warfare. Now, when we first saw the XMGs in the Advanced Warfare trailers, we were stoked. We thought this was going to be the coolest thing ever. I mean, where else could you run around and boost jump around the map with a Akimbo machine gun turret strapped to your arms? But then we started using the XMGs and we were immediately disappointed. Looked and sounded awesome, but they weren't good. And usually you got into more trouble than they were worth due to the poor accuracy and the sluggish handling, but they were still cool enough to have a fan club, and I think they're worthy of a spot. Everyone knew they sucked, but we couldn't stop using them because it made us look and feel so cool. At number 10, the Stoner 63 in Black Ops. Now, I know we all love the Stoner, but let's be real with each other, you and me, right now. It wasn't good. In fact, it was kind of bad. Stoner fired at the exact same fire rate as the FAMAS, while killing in 3 shots, just like the FAMAS. Also had a pretty small magazine, very long reload animation, massive recoil to boot. Basically, had the same time to kill as the FAMAS, but it was way harder to actually see that time to kill because it was infinitely harder to control. And on top of that, you had this painfully slow movement speed of an LMG instead of a quick movement of an assault rifle. Yes, funny name, cool, sounded amazing, but in terms of actual performance, the Stoner wasn't good. It was literally just a slower, clunkier, and less accurate version of the FAMAS. At number 9, the EM1 in Advanced Warfare. This was another Advanced Warfare gun that looked absolutely insane in the trailer, but it wasn't good in practice. It was neat being able to run around with a laser beam, but it was totally outgunned by basically everything in that game, especially if you were in a lobby where everybody was spamming the Bal 27. A lot of people loved it. I'll admit I had some days where all I wanted to do was run around and fry people with an EM1, even if I wasn't very good at it, and it wasn't a very optimal way to play. If you got some of the variants, you had cool, different colored laser beams. It was cool, but it wasn't very good. At number 8. The Thompson in World at War. Now, it was iconic, but when you look at it compared to the other SMGs in the game, it was the worst of the bunch. Think about it. The other SMGs in the game were the MP40, the PPSH, and the Type 100. The MP40, completely overpowered. The PPSH, we already know, and the Type 100 was a mid-range laser beam. Compared to the other SMGs in World at War, the Thompson had significantly higher recoil and a significantly slower time to kill. Design, awesome. Sound effects, amazing. But the World at War Thompson wasn't that good despite its popularity. It's clearly the worst SMG in the game. At number 7, the machine pistol in COD World War II. This sidearm was super popular in public matches and competitive tournaments, but basically everyone was in agreement. Kind of sucked, which does raise a few questions as to why everyone ran it anyway. I mean, it was the only fully automatic pistol in the game. Maybe that's why, so I guess it was nice to have in your pocket, but also that damage was pathetic. The recoil was high, the magazine was teeny tiny, and basically only effective if the enemy had already been hurt. Really hurt. It was only good for cleaning up kills, not getting kills, and yet it was the most popular pistol in the game. It's not like there weren't other good pistols in the game, so I really don't understand this one. Help me understand. At number 6, the fad in Modern Warfare 3 2011. You knew it was going to be here if you know me at all. The The FAD was one of the last things you unlocked in the game, and I think some people just assumed it was automatically good because you had to grind so hard, but guess what? You were fooled. This assault rifle had a fast fire rate, decent time to kill up close, but it was totally outshot at mid-range and longer by every other rifle, totally outshot by SMGs up close, so it was trying to be this middle ground between AR and SMG without being really good at either role, yet this gun had a sizable fan club back in the day. There are people who insist it was underrated. I'll never get it. Why? It sucked. Even though a lot of people liked it, it sucked. And speaking of fast assault rifles that sucked, we now arrive at the top 5. Here we go. The F2000 in Modern Warfare 2, the original. One of the most argued over guns in COD history. I probably caused those arguments, despite it being in a game that's now over 15 years old. The F2000 had a very fast fire rate with bouncy recoil, super low damage value, ugly gun, basically just made it function like a heavy SMG despite it being in the AR category. It was absolutely not a good gun. And yet, there's people who argued back in the day and continue to argue to this day. They're going to be in the comment section. Look for them. This was their favorite gun. It was totally better than everyone said it was. I'm amazed there's still a debate about this in the community. We should really all agree on this one and move on. It sucked. At number 4, the Olympia in Black Ops 3. This is one of the worst guns in the original Black Ops, but when it was brought back in Black Ops 3, it developed a bit of a fan club despite not being very good. Sure, the BO3 version was better than the BO1 version, but it's still arguably the worst shotgun in the game because it had a horrible fire rate and lack of versatility compared to other monsters. 205 Brecci, ARM262, fan favorite Argus. And yet a lot of people absolutely adored the Black Ops 3 Olympia, possibly because of how satisfying it was to put somebody on their back. Now, thanks to the advanced movement of the game, it's a lot easier to close the gap between you and an enemy player and pop them in the face with this thing for an insta-kill, and I admit, that was fun. But for how blatantly outclassed it was, I think it's interesting that so many people insisted on using it. I mean, I guess if you were one of the lucky few that pulled it out of a supply drop, you had to use it a little bit to feel like you got your money's worth, but at the same time, you had to have known other shotguns were better. At number 3, Crossbow and everything. It was introduced in the original Black Ops, has returned in a ton of other COD games with many variations to how it behaves. Typically, Crossbow is a slow-moving projectile weapon, can score you an insta-kill if you manage to hit somebody with it, and most of them also come with explosive tips, which makes it really satisfying to stick somebody and then watch them blow up a second or two later. I think we should all be in agreement on the simple fact that using a crossbow in a game like Call of Duty is a bad logistical idea. Every version of the crossbow had a painfully slow fire rate, always way harder to use than a standard ballistic weapon, but even though it logistically sucks, there were so many people dedicated hours and hours to getting good with these so they could show off in public matches. If you could top the lobby with a crossbow, you deserved it. Same on the next one. Number 2, the Ballistic Knife in the Black Ops series. Another slow-moving projectile weapon in the original Black Ops, brought back in almost every Black Ops sequel to date. Much like the crossbow, makes no logistical sense in a Call of Duty game, but if you dedicated the time and effort to getting good, you deserve a little tip of my hat today. The Ballistic Knife would instantly kill whoever it touched, even if it touched them in the toe. But the cost of that power, super slow fire rate, super limited ammo, very slow moving projectile, almost impossible to reliably use beyond point blank range. By all objective measures, it was a bottom tier weapon in every COD multiplayer showed up in. Yet so many people loved it. Got a ton of satisfaction out of putting tons of effort into getting consistent with it. It's a staple of COD history, despite sucking. And at number 1, the Blunderbus, Advanced Warfare, and COD World War II, the pirate shotgun. It was added to an advanced game. It was a joke, and the joke was apparently funny enough to get it remade in COD World War II. Single shot shotgun features a massive hitbox, but a horrible one-shot kill range, and once you fired your shot, you were locked into a reload animation that lasts approximately 7 minutes. Few things are as frustrating as sitting through the entire animation, jumping in front of an enemy, only to get a hit marker with it and then die. The Blunderbus was obviously bad on purpose, and yet there were so many people in both the AW community and the COD World War II community who insisted on using it. Every once in a while, you would actually see somebody near the top of their team while using the Blunderbus, which you have to respect. It takes a lot of dedication to top the leaderboard with a gun that was bad on purpose, and I absolutely think it deserves a top spot today. It was literally designed to be the worst gun in the game, and yet it had a legion of fans in both games where it showed up. I'll never understand it, but I'm not going to deny that it happened, and it gets the top spot. I hope you guys have a great day. Let me know one gun that was deserving that didn't make the list. I'll see you soon.